Hello and welcome to this lecture on Adobe Illustrator by Eduonix Technologies. In this lecture we're going to be taking a look at color more in depth. The last lecture was about color and gradient, and in this one we're going to take a look at some of the more deep aspects of color. For instance, color settings under Edit menu option. Also Shift Control K or Shift Command K on the Mac. In color settings we have a lot of crazy looking options. I just want to explain them real quick. This is for screen printing. This is the working space, so that means that the kind of hidden language for the red, green, blue, it's like a more specific version of red, green, blue, what the actual range of colors you can use is. And this is one of the most limited ones, which is good because that means that most computers will be able to interpret that. Most monitors, it'll show up normally. And in this one, this is the only option I have for CMYK, but you can get other options, but really just keep everything here the same and make sure these say preserve embedded profiles. And you might even want to check this to be extra safe. And this might also say preserve numbers. If that's the case, go ahead and keep it on that. If you want to be extra safe, change these both to preserve embedded profiles. And the reason is if somebody creates a document, let's say that's in Adobe RGB, and your current profile is sRGB, then preserve embedded profiles. When you open this image up, it's going to look for the profile, and it's going to change this to Adobe RGB. So click cancel out that. Let's get into the colors themselves. We've already taken a look at the swatches panel, all the different things you can do, but there's a lot of color libraries we didn't have time to go into. The one in particular that I want to go into would be Pantone. So for instance, when I choose Pantone solid coated, encoded is whatever kind of paper it's on. This is going to bring up a number of colors, and they all have little dots below them. That basically means they're spot colors. And what a spot color is it's useful to know if you're printing using a specific color of ink for a logo or something that has to be a certain color. You would use the spot color in Illustrator. Most printing processes use a mix of CMYK, and these are all suitable and they'll come out just fine. But basically a spot color is just a colored ink. It's not a mix of CMYK, it's an actual ink that's loaded into the printer. And like it's typically used for logos, for branding, a lot of package design. You'll break things up into spot colors. So just know that if you ever have to use a specific ink, you're going to find it in your color library. So you just have to find out what kind it is and look in your color books. It's most likely a Pantone color. So I don't use spot colors that often because most colors can be approximated with CMYK. But if you do see that little symbol, that's what that is. So all that stuff that I've gone over so far seems kind of boring, but it's pretty important. So you might have somebody that asks you to work with a specific Pantone color. Make sure that it's that you get it, from the color library. They're going to want you to use spot colors. They're going to want you to specify that when it's saved. Like I said, it doesn't happen a lot, but it's important. And also it's important to make sure that your color management is like I discussed at the beginning of the video, so that you're interpreting profiles correctly and all that stuff. So we'll get into some of the more useful stuff right now. I'm going to make these shapes smaller. I need to create a bunch of shapes. I'll go into this a little bit later, but this is the blend tool. It's a pretty cool tool. So what I'm going to be explaining is global color swatches, which makes the workflow of using color, especially when you have a lot of objects, it makes it really easy to manage colors. So I'm going to expand these just to make them all individual boxes. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select a few of them. And I'm going to change the color to something. It doesn't really matter. So now I have a few that are all the same exact color, green, because I changed them all at once. I'm going to create a new color group. It's going to automatically have the selected color in it based on this setting. Create from selected swatches. Now I'm going to double click on this color right here. I'm going to click global and OK. As you can see, there's a little white triangle on the bottom, not like spot color, it doesn't have a dot anymore. It's just a little white triangle. And what this means is that whenever I change this color, anything that is that color is going to change. So without having to select anything, if this were a whole document with green text, green graphic elements, so long as they're vector editable in Illustrator, whatever is this particular color, if I made it a global color when I was creating it to my swatches, I will be able to change it just by clicking on the color itself. I won't have to reselect the objects. This makes sure if you have a big document or a lot of individual things that you don't have to double check to see that you got everything, since you created it as a global color swatch. I don't have anything selected. It just changed whatever was that color to the new color that I made it. So that's what the word global means. It's always going to be whatever you determine for it. So this can be pretty useful whenever you have a specific color. And also, if I had this document and I had 3 different flavors, so to speak, of this document, like if this were a package for a lime candy, and I wanted the next package to be the same design, but just different colors, I could just go into the global color swatch and change the colors. So right now I have a lot of specific colors. Let's say I have my spot color my client wants me to use. I have this gradient. It's actually from the last tutorial, or from the next one. And I have my global colors. If I want to save a profile that's going to be used in other Adobe programs, like if I wanted to have these same color selections in Photoshop, there's this cool feature of Illustrator and of most of the Adobe products that deal with color, and that's saving swatch library as an ASC file or Adobe Swatch Exchange file. I would just title it whatever I want. It'll save it here. I could probably title it the name of the project, which would be untitled in this case. So it's just project color talks. And I can go into my swatch exchange files wherever I want to save these. I can either save these in the project where I'm working on or all in the same thing. Depends on how you like to keep organized. And when I'm in another program, I can open that swatch exchange file up and have the same exact swatches as I saved right here, which is pretty handy if you're going really custom. So keep that in mind if you ever want to exchange swatches between other programs. It's a lot more exact than using the eyedropper tool between Photoshop and Illustrator, or dragging these between programs, dragging shapes. Next thing I'm going to go into is color guides. With this global color selected, Let's take a look at the color guide. What happens when I click on the color guide panel? And this is in window, under color guide, Shift F3 shortcut. So right away it gives me a lot of shades and tints. I like to keep this on none, and that just means it's not limiting it to any particular colors, but if I wanted to only show shades and tints that show up in a certain color book, for example, I would say only show me shades and tints that are also Pantone solid coated colors. So this will limit it to whatever swatches, which is good if you have a certain kind of thing that you can only print. This one is pretty useful. That's save a color group to a swatch panel. But before I click that, let's take a look at some of the harmony rules. If you know anything about color theory, you'll know these are all common, basically complementary colors would be the opposite of this color, which is this kind of pinkish color. Complementary to is going to show various hues of complementary colors based on popular color theory. Triad, for example, RGB is, or I'm sorry, red, yellow, and blue is a triad color. This would be this version of the triad based on the color I've selected. On a color wheel, it would form a triangle, a perfect equilateral triangle, just like red, green, and yellow, or red, blue, and yellow do. And basically all of these other things like shades, it's giving me the different shades. It looks really green, but that's because I'm probably using kind of a strange color. Tetrads, so anything, if you get into color theory, you can select your harmony rules up here, and that's going to give me all the shades and tints and everything. So if I want to work with this color and I want to use a triad color scheme, and then I'll also get all the shades and tints of that, which is great for designing, for alternating colors. I can save this entire group to the swatch panel, which is awesome because now I don't have to calculate what my triad is. I have it all right here already created. And just so you can see, if I go up to select same fill color, it's going to select everything that's black. I had the black square selected. I'm going to change this to the complement of this color, and it looks pretty nice. I don't know what this would be for, but these two colors are opposites. And it's probably better to show you without using a global color when you're experimenting with this. Just use a regular one of these to start out with. Take a look at the color guide for that particular color. As you can see, here's the red, yellow, blue triad. Since I had it on red, it selected yellow and blue. If I had it on blue, it selected yellow and red. So this is a pretty cool function of Illustrator, and I can save this color group. And that's my primary colors right there. And also, remember that trick for selecting things by the same color. I think this belongs, to discuss it in this color lecture. You can select things by the same fill color, appearance, which we'll get into shortly in another video. All these different things. I use fill color, fill and stroke the most. I also use just stroke color. Weight is useful sometimes, but it's really cool because you can make a selection based on having similar characteristics without having to click each one of these orange squares or even having to group it in future use. And we're going to get into this in another tutorial more in depth, but I wanted to show it to you again, and that's the eyedropper tool, which will copy the color. I just want to make sure you learn this one. It'll copy color, it'll also copy text effects, stroke, appearances, certain kinds of appearances, not very many. You can actually also, when you're using it, if you click on something and hold the mouse button in, you can drag it off of the screen. I can copy my desktop color here, for example. I can drag it off of the screen and copy the orange, some of the orange from the internet browser down there. And it's not just Windows you can drag it onto, so it's a pretty cool tool. And the only other tool, for the most part, we're going to get into now is the gradient mesh tool. So I've created a circle, and I've gone over here to gradient mesh, or mesh tool, shortcut key U. And on that circle, I'm just going to click somewhere, and you'll see what happens. It creates a vertical, horizontal line based on where I clicked, and it's kind of warping it with the shape, whatever the shape is. If this were square, and I were to use this tool, as you can see, so it helps you create a grid. You generally only need to click something about 2 or 3 times. Now watch, if I were to select these anchors that's created right now, go into my color picker and select a lighter color, it's going to apply it just to those anchors, and it's going to blend it into the other anchors which still have the same orange on it. We're going to use this tool in the next tutorial where we create a flower. So thanks for watching this one on advanced colors in Illustrator. And go ahead and play around, make some libraries. Get into this tool. It's great for design. It's great for determining what kind of colors will go well with your design. And if you ever have color problems, just refer back to this video. This might answer a lot of your questions. Thanks for watching.